Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one is entitled The Seals of Revelation, Seal 6. Now, in Revelation chapter 6, we are told about the Lamb of God, who is identified as Jesus Christ, who opened 7 seals on a scroll. When he opens the first 4 seals, different colored horses appear, which seem to represent several destructive processes which are unleashed upon the world. In the first 4 of this series of articles, we looked at these horses that appear and what they may entail, and whether the seals may have already been opened. Now, it appears that the white horse represents the taking over of the world government by the Antichrist, and that's in Article 245. The red horse appears to represent war. The black horse seems to represent economic hardship. The pale horse, plagues and death. The 5th seal seems to point to the martyrdom of Christians. And in this article, we will look at seal 6. Now, seal 6 seems to refer to a global cataclysm involving a global earthquake, meteors raining down, a crustal displacement which moves every island and mountain out of its place, and the elite and those who serve them hiding in their bunkers. So we read in Revelation 6 verse 12 to 17, "And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?" Now, the fact that every island and mountain will move out of its place indicates that this is a global event. The whole planet is affected. Thus, when we are told about a great earthquake, this must be an earthquake that shakes the whole planet, and therefore nothing like anything that has been experienced before. The sun then goes dark. Now, recently, a region in northern Russia experienced 3 hours of darkness in the middle of the day, and at a time when the region should be having daylight for nearly 24 hours a day. And as I explained in Article 291, entitled "The Sun Disappears, Day Turns into Night," what seems to have occurred in that instance is that a large amount of Planet X debris came into the atmosphere, which led to sun simulator failure, which also indicates that the sun simulator was what was illuminating the atmosphere and the surface of the earth in that region. The sun was not providing the illumination. The sun has been weakened by the Planet X system of dead stars, which have been absorbing energy from it for nearly 200 years. And you may look at Article 146 entitled Planet X System Time of Arrival for more details on that. I have seen a lot of evidence indicating that the sun has been weakening for a very long time. Measurements of the magnetic field associated to sunspots had already shown that the sun was weakening independent of the solar cycle by 2009. And in addition, SDO images over the years also indicated that the sun was weakening. And you can see some of these images here. SDO images in 304 angstroms between 2011, that's the 2011 image, and 2018. And these indicate that the sun weakened substantially in those years. Now, this is the data that was obtained by Livingston and Penn. when they did a study of the sun's magnetic field strength associated with sunspots. And they showed that it dropped independent of the solar cycle during cycle 23. It dropped by 50 Gauss per year between the years of 1996 and 2009. However, it seems that even this evidence that we have been allowed to see does not accurately portray the sun's true state. The likelihood that the sun was dark for the same exact 3 hours that the simulation failure lasted over the 2 districts in the Yakutia region of northern Russia is extremely low. So what it shows is that the sun is now dark for the most part, if not all the time already. It may turn on now and then, but it is then likely to be extremely dim. It is therefore possible that we may have been given old data that came from the sun observing spacecraft years ago instead of recent data in order to deceive us into thinking that the sun is weakening but still emitting light when it may actually have stopped emitting light some time ago. The simulators in the Earth's atmosphere keep the Earth illuminated and the Earth's population in the dark to the fact that the sun may no longer be working as our source of light. So when Jesus said in Matthew 24 verse 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken, he meant just that. The sun would no longer give light, as has now happened. You may look at Article 296 entitled Tribulation is at hand, the sun is darkened. The moon will not give light either if the sun is not emitting light, because the moon reflects the sun's light. The moon that we are seeing in the sky nowadays is a holographic projection, not the real moon. And you may look at Article 220 entitled Simulated Moon in the Sky for more details on that. In fact, we have a whole simulation system for the sun, moons, and planets. The sun is often a holographic projection too in the clouds. And this is what we see here. This sun actually looks quite yellow, like our sun is supposed to be, but it's actually a holographic projection in the clouds. And in one of the articles, I actually show a spacecraft flying right through this sun. And so we can also see clouds in front of it and clouds behind it. So this is the sun in the clouds. It seems to actually be a projection, a 3-dimensional projection in the clouds. It also does not have a perfect circular outline as we'd expect the real sun to have. This outline is uneven. So our sun has been replaced by a grid pattern of sun, moon, and planet simulation devices that move across the surface of the Earth within the Earth's atmosphere. And here we see another one of these devices. This one is hexagonal or 6-sided sun simulation devices. We see several multicolored additional light sources and multiple other disc-shaped devices. These ones that seem to have an array type pattern of holes in them. So these are clearly artificial. This is not the real sun. Since most of the Earth's population has been fooled by the replacement of the real sun for one that is technologically produced, the sun going dark will imply that the sun simulation system will have to fail. We already know that this occurred in Russia, but this time it will have to be a worldwide event. We also know that it is the stellar core debris that is coming in greater and greater quantities that caused the Russian incident, and that will also cause the one that will occur at the 6th Theal. And here we see particle density data from the A spacecraft, and we can see several spikes in the density. And so this is not likely to be solar wind. When the solar wind density increases, it increases as a step. In other words, it goes up and it stays up for quite a few hours. But these are very narrow increases. So these are spikes in the density. And this is likely to be due to stellar core debris coming in, going past the spacecraft, which is at the L1 position, on its way to Earth. The fact that a large worldwide earthquake will occur probably implies that not just stellar core dust will at that time arrive, but most likely one of the stellar cores that have been observed in the sun's corona for many years now. Most likely one of the smaller ones that has rejuvenated enough to emit some light with the energy that it has absorbed from the sun. The smaller stellar cores are more likely to reach further into the solar system once they are repelled by the sun. However, even the smaller of these objects are often larger than the Earth. The objects have very low gravitational influence because of their very low energy status. But it is that low energy that allows them to draw a huge amount of energy from the sun or any other object, including planet Earth. This huge draw of energy will cause an electrical interaction, which may then result in the huge earthquake. Now here we see one of these stellar cores in the sun's corona. This one is one of the smaller ones, but it is 4 times larger than the Earth. It's also striped. These objects are striped because they are brown dwarfs. And the stripes are associated with a strong magnetic field. These objects have a strong magnetic field. The magnetic field is not affected by the drop in energy, but the electric field they generate in their outer layers is as a result of the gravitational interaction. And the gravitational interaction for these objects drops incredibly as their photon energy or energy within their particles drops. So these objects have stripes, just like Jupiter has stripes. But brown dwarfs are in fact not substellar objects. They are old stars, and they are everywhere in the galaxy. And a system of these objects seems to have invaded our solar system. And you may look at Article 317 entitled Planet X System Brown and Black Dwarfs with High Magnetic Field for more details on that. Now, in Revelation chapter 6, verse 17, we're also told that the moon will turn to blood. Since the simulation system has to fail for the sun to turn dark, we know that most likely a huge cloud of stellar core dust will envelop the planet and come into the planet's atmosphere globally. Stellar cores are usually surrounded in a huge amount of debris because they share their outer layers of material, and then this dust just floats around them. This is because it is too low in energy to influence or be influenced by gravity. But since the simulation system will fail, there will be no holographic projection of the moon in the sky. So an object which emits red light must be close to the Earth and illuminate the moon so that it appears to be blood red. And then we are told in Revelation 6 verse 13, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. This suggests that a huge number of meteors were rained down into the Earth's atmosphere, suggesting that first comes the dust and then larger pieces. The debris cloud around the stellar core will contain both dust and larger pieces, and these larger pieces, once they have absorbed some energy and thus gained some gravitational influence, will rain down on the Earth as meteors. Then in verse 14 we read, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Heaven here most likely refers to the sky. The sky departing or moving as a scroll seems to refer to the surface of the earth moving, whilst the sky remains in place, which is also what we can expect if every mountain and island moves. This seems to therefore be referring to a crustal displacement. A crustal displacement occurs when the crust of the earth loses contact with the solid inner core and moves independently of it. This requires a strong tidal force exerted by an object, exerting a small but usually differential gravitational force on the planet. And to do that, the object has to be very close to the surface of the Earth, so that the gravitational force is very strong right underneath it and much weaker further away. This tidal force creates a very fast-moving tidal wave both in the Earth's oceans. This is what we see here as this object moves fast along parallel to the Earth, then the tidal bulge will move as well. But this tidal bulge is not just created in the ocean, it's also created in the liquid part of the Earth, or the outer core. And the friction that occurs between this tidal wave and the solid part of the crust leads to a crustal displacement. So the crust is displaced with respect to the inner core. Now, stellar core will have a huge mass compared with a small moon, which is what we see here, but its gravitational influence would be very small, therefore like that of a small moon made out of normal matter, or matter with a normal amount of energy in it. And that's a stellar core after it has absorbed some energy, possibly by being in the sun's corona for a while, that would be able to have the same gravitational influence as even a small moon. And you may look at Article 167 entitled Magnetic Pole Shift and Crustal Displacement for more details. The huge global earthquake as well as the crustal displacement will then result in huge tsunamis which will devastate coastal regions around the world. As you can see, we'll have a huge tidal wave here traveling very fast and therefore destroying a lot of cities along coastlines. Then in the rest of the passage we read, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and what shall we and who shall be able to stand? So this seems to be referring to the world leaders, the rich and powerful of the world, as well as those who serve them, such as military personnel, hiding in their bunkers and being so terrified that they invite the mountains and rocks to fall on them. Also, the term wrath of the Lamb and the great day of his wrath is mentioned, which is likely to refer to the time of God's judgment on the world. This seems to mean that this time of judgment or the tribulation starts with this event. Now, the amount of stellar core dust coming towards the Earth seems to be increasing, and earthquake activity also seems to be on the rise, as well as other events such as fissures appearing all over the planet and unprecedented volcanic activity. These are all signs that more and more stellar core debris and possibly larger and larger pieces are approaching Earth. The amount of debris in the inner solar system created by these objects continues to increase, and as time goes by, this debris absorbs energy and gains gravitational influence as a result, and thus becomes able to interact gravitationally with Earth. The smaller the object or the piece of debris, the faster the process will be, which is why the smallest pieces of debris, dust particles, started arriving first. But with time, we can expect larger and larger pieces, and eventually even stellar cores may arrive. Also, as the sun becomes weaker, the stellar cores that may pass close to Earth may see the Earth as a source of energy as well, and attach themselves to our planets, spiraling closer with time as they gain energy. There were some reports of blood moons which were observed several days in a row a few weeks ago. Now, it is impossible for our moon to be eclipsed 2 or 3 nights in a row. So these blood moons may have been due to red light-emitting objects in the sky, which were covered up by the holographic simulators as blood moons. And you may look at Article 295 entitled, Why are so many blood moons being observed? This means that red light emitting objects are reaching Earth. Since the size of the objects reaching Earth is likely to increase, there is a good chance that one with enough gravitational influence to create a large crustal displacement will arrive and get close enough to Earth to create the type of event described as the opening of the sixth seal. In conclusion, the Planet X system of stellar cores seems to have already caused the real sun to become dark, and the debris these objects create is continuously coming into the Earth's atmosphere and also appears to be reaching Earth with increased frequency and in larger amounts. In addition, the size of the debris pieces reaching Earth is likely to increase. The entrance of this debris is capable of causing sun simulation failure in the Earth's atmosphere. The fact that smaller red light emitting stellar cores are reaching the Earth indicates that it is only a matter of time before one of these objects is large enough or has enough gravitational influence to cause the event that is described in Revelation 6 at the opening of the sixth seal. The fact that we are experiencing increased earthquake and volcanic activity as well as increased fissuring is a sign that the stellar core objects reaching Earth and interacting with it are increasing in their influence, and that this event may be about to occur. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.